From what I hear, things are moving along, and that the Senate hopes to pass it out of committee today, I believe, in some form, and that they will vote on it tomorrow, which is, I believe, as fast as they can vote on it. And hopefully any differences will be worked out so that they will be able to put a budget on my desk tomorrow.
Governor, what about the Category 5 schools where the House is only funding a study? Is that sufficient?
I preferred to go ahead and address the 14 Category 5 schools in the state. These are the 14 worst school buildings in the Commonwealth. By and large, no kids ought to have to go to school in buildings that are in that condition. And that's why I proposed that we go ahead and address those at this time. But we need a budget, and if they cannot agree upon that issue, then we're going to have to move on because we have to have a budget that will let us run the state for the next 2 years.
This is one of the leanest budgets in years. Can you speak to some of the people who are going to have to see these cuts, and some people at the end of the line that are going to have to bear the brunt of this?
For the last 2.5 years, I have reduced this budget already 6 times. And we've cut out about $1 billion, and we've reduced the executive branch employee number down to the lowest it's been in a generation. We've got the smallest state government in a generation. This has been brought upon us both because we need to be more efficient in state government, and we need to run it in a more business-like way, but secondly, because we're in the midst of the worst recession of our lifetimes, and our tax revenues have diminished significantly, and that's caused us to have to take this approach. Each time, though, that I've done it, I have been able to maintain some priorities. We have maintained education as the top priority in this state, and we have been able to keep the SEEK formula, which is the basic funding formula for classroom teaching in K through 12, intact during this time. We have kept our public safety programs intact. We have continued to aggressively go after job creation, and we have continued the protection for health protection for the most vulnerable in our society. So this time we were faced with the biggest deficit in the last 2.5 years, $1.5 billion. This is going to be an extremely austere budget. We have been able to give education a priority again and give those other areas that I mentioned a priority, but there's no question that there's going to be a lot of pain associated with implementing this budget over the next 2 years. I would much rather have seen us at this point have the budget that I proposed last January, because I proposed some significant recurring revenue from slots at the tracks. Even though we would still have had to reduce the size of government more to balance this budget, we would be much better off today with a budget if we had those recurring revenues. But the House and Senate chose not to go there, and so what we've been left with is being able to come together as best we can and provide the services that we can with the reduced amount of revenue that we have. So once again, we have maintained the priorities that I think most Kentuckians hold dear, but it's going to be a real tough 2 years.
Going back to the Category 5 schools, did you see any windows of opportunity over the last 2 months for the Senate and House to agree on getting some of those funded, and who dropped the ball?
Well, from the time they left town on April 15th without passing a budget, I labored with getting both sides together to try to work out their remaining differences. And one of the differences was in the area of projects and what should be built and how much debt service we should create. And the Category 5 schools was a part of that issue. Finally, as you know, in order to break the stalemate, I had to come out and propose a compromise proposal on the remaining 5% of the issues that they couldn't agree upon. And in the project area, I pared down that area significantly, but did feel like that the Category 5 schools were a worthy effort for us to move forward with. I think that the Senate agrees with that, in that they introduced the budget as I proposed it, and that included the Category 5 schools. But I'm sure they're going to have some discussions with the House today, and we'll see where that goes.
So are you saying that the House dropped the ball on it?
No, I'm not saying anybody dropped the ball. I'm just saying that neither house could agree upon these issues, and that's why I had to put the compromise proposal out.
How easy has House leadership been to work with during this process?
I've worked with both the House and Senate leadership. I have not had a problem working with them. They seem to have had a problem working with each other. That's been where the problem is.
Governor, if the legislature approves a budget bill that has a cut in pay.
And by that I mean the House and Senate.
Oh, not within House
No,
leadership?
I meant the House and the Senate leadership working together.
If they pass a budget with cut in pay for the Economic Development Secretary, will you veto that?
It's too early to talk about vetoes at this point, because I don't know what's going to end up in the budget that gets to my desk. And once it gets there, we'll look at everything in it and make those decisions.
Governor, regarding furloughs, there seems to be a lot of anxiety among state workers about furloughs. This would give you that authority, but what kind of message can you give state workers as far as whether you will have to actually exert that authority?
We don't know at this point what may be in store over the next 2 years in the efforts we're going to have to make to balance this budget. This is going to be a very austere budget. There's not a lot of funds there to run all of the agencies and departments, and each agency and department and cabinet is going to have to be sitting down once we know for sure how much money has been allocated to each one of those areas, and starting making plans to make sure that over these next 2 years we don't spend more than we have. And I hope that we don't have to lay off people. I hope we don't have to furlough people. But at this point, there's no way to know whether either one of those items will be a part of some process of balancing a budget in some agency or not.
Would furloughs apply to, if you have to go that route, you don't want to, would it apply to non-merit and merit employees?
Well, it depends upon the language that they give me, first of all, and there's been different iterations of the furlough language. Actually, some furlough language was in both the Senate and the House proposals back during the regular session, so we're not the first ones to bring that up. But we'll wait and see what authority they do give us, if any, and then if we have to go in that direction, we'll do it in a fair and even way.
What role do you anticipate playing on Friday to make sure that they do leave with the budget?
I continue to be in contact with both House and Senate leadership. We're encouraging them to take final action on Friday. They both seem determined to do that, and so I know that's their goal, and hopefully they will reach that goal.